The first thing that you notice is there's no steps. NDIS houses are the best investments in the world. They've got their intercom. You notice all the switches are giant size.
It's an investment scheme where the promises are dazzling.
One NDIS house is going to get you through the best schools in Australia. It's going to help people pay off their mortgage in record time.
For too long, people with a profound disability have lived in institutional care. The government turned to the private market to change that.
We thought the investment was government-backed. We thought we were doing it for a good cause.
But the taxpayer-funded rivers of gold have enticed others with less noble intentions.
Property sharks.
When there's so much money and no regulation, it just creates a breeding ground for opportunists.
In the feeding frenzy, life savings have evaporated.
Where did the money go? Okay, that one's empty too.
And scores of houses have been built where they're simply not needed.
What we're seeing out here in Melbourne's West is absolute madness.
Is this what you get when you let the private market do what it wants without any oversight or regulation from the government?
Yes, this is the outcome you get.
They've just dropped us like, oh, it's gone.
The scheme was fuelled by good intentions.
This is one of the ways to truly see a participant live a genuine and a full life, and we can't mess it up.
But bad players are putting all the gains at risk.
Dave McWilliams, do you have anything to say to investors? Do you have anything to say?
The Gold Coast has a rich history of property scams, but the one we're about to unravel must surely rank amongst the most audacious. High above the glitter strip, a property developer cooked up a pitch that would prove irresistible to investors. On offer were sky-high returns in exchange for investment in homes for the profoundly disabled.
I had been doing some Google searching for investment opportunities, and I'm pretty sure it came up on my Facebook feed.
It was the latest venture of David McWilliams, who boasted 30 years' experience in the finance and property industries. He lived the life of a successful Gold Coast developer, residing in a sub-penthouse apartment in Australia's tallest building. According to his investment material, he'd turned to helping people with disability through a group of companies known as Alammc.
So now I'm just reading some of the invitation to invest. Alammc's vision is to build new purpose-built properties for National Disability Insurance Scheme, NDIS. Participants seeking the very best in disability insurance scheme accommodation.
We hope to eradicate the current
Disability housing crisis
in Australia.
That's what we felt that we were giving money for.
David McWilliams' pitch suggested this would be a sure thing, tapping into an unmet need for specialist rental accommodation.
Tenants' rental income will be backed by the NDIS.
Providing a stable source of income for the investors. It's why I, and I know others, felt very secure about putting money into these projects.
Fixed returns of 10% per annum paid monthly into your bank account.
15% bonus payment upon successful completion of the project.
In all, David McWilliams raised almost $92 million from more than 500 investors.
There was no reason not to consider it unbelievable or untrustworthy because I had so many recommendations. But knowing what I know now, it's complete and utter lies and bullshit.
My name's Mick Schroeder, and I'm telling my story today of this NDIS housing investment. We thought the investment was government-backed. We thought we were doing it for a good cause, but it was all a scam.
Farmer Mick Schroeder has worked hard all his life and was looking forward to retirement. He entrusted $600,000 of his family's savings with David McWilliams.
You think you're doing the right thing, working all the time, trying to put a nest egg away, and these people come along and just take it. It's not right.
Mick invested in a development in Perth, one of 12 disability projects McWilliams promised to build. At first, everything was fine. McWilliams paid the monthly interest to investors, and Mick thought he was close to getting his capital and bonus paid out.
So that would have been a good deal if it panned out.
Yeah. And whilst the interest was getting paid on them, it was a good deal.
The idea behind the investment opportunity was indeed legitimate. For years, disability advocates had been pushing the government to tackle the growing problem of people with a disability being forced into aged care and to get others out of group homes.
Group homes, you are having a ridiculous amount of participants in them, and we realised that's not safe from a participant's wellbeing perspective, and the stock that was available from state governments were ageing.
As part of the NDIS rollout, the government agreed new small-scale custom-built homes were needed. But instead of building them itself, it relied on private investors. The scheme is known as Specialist Disability Accommodation, or SDA.
It was meant for sophisticated institutional investments. It was never intended for retail mum and dad investors.
This is how SDA works. An investor builds or buys a specially designed house. When an NDIS-approved participant moves in, the government pays a hefty rent, up to around $110,000 per tenant per year. That money flows back to investors. Those huge potential windfalls were designed to attract stable investment, but it also had an unintended consequence.
What kind of people did it attract?
Property sharks, people wanting to make a quick return. That is just like a big flashing neon sign to a property developer, and that's where a lot of the problems, I think, centred from.
My name is Tony Bicknell. I'm an above-knee amputee and a passionate investor in disabled housing. Unfortunately, the developers in this case have exploited the system and taken the funds provided by investors, including myself, to line their own pockets.
For Alammc investor Tony Bicknell, the idea behind disability housing was very personal.
I'd thought about this years ago. Why doesn't somebody build something suitable for people who have disabilities? And so when this happened, I thought it's a government initiative, so it can only be good.
The luxury apartment building where David McWilliams lives was the advertised address for Alammc. But the company actually operated from far less glamorous premises in a nearby light industrial estate. It's only now we know that despite sucking up close to $92 million from investors, David McWilliams barely built a thing.
I'm Annette Williams, and I'm completely gutted by what's happened at the loss of my money and my life savings. I mean, where did the money go?
McWilliams was a frequent visitor to Queensland casinos. Over 17 months, he gambled an astronomical amount, almost $40 million. It was such a huge outlay that gaming authorities informed the financial regulator. In their ongoing investigation, ASIC alleges he was gambling investor funds, ultimately losing $4 million.
Just can't believe it, how he thinks he can just go in there and spend other people's money, knowing that people have invested for a good cause. That's unbelievable.
It's heartbreaking. It's absolutely bloody heartbreaking.
The federal court ordered receivers to take control of the Alammc companies. Receivers allege investor funds were used to prop up David McWilliams' lavish lifestyle.
So these are some of the things that David McWilliams has had the enjoyment of. an Aston Martin F1 Vantage,
a Chevrolet Camaro, a McLaren 720S Coupe. My goodness.
$600,000 to a Gold Coast modelling agency. Unbelievable.
$4 million in loans to McWilliams. I wish I could lend myself $4 million.
$3.3 million into cryptocurrency? Oh my God.
Unbelievable again.
That's shocking. $6.8 million into a Fijian resort development. I mean, what the fuck? Nothing here is remotely associated with what we've put money into.
It appears almost everything they bought has come from our money, which is wrong.
Welcome to Sayursa Prestige Apartments.
For many of the investors, there was another shattering plot twist. The investment broker who'd introduced them to Alammc also put them onto a specialist disability accommodation group called Sayursa Health. It looked like a promising deal, as Sayursa had already built an apartment complex in Brisbane.
Another feature of these lovely apartments is the hospital-grade spa on-site, complete with hydraulics and ceiling hoist and separate bathroom.
We thought it'd be safe to have it in two different funds because, you know, you don't have all your eggs in one basket.
But it didn't turn out that way. Company marketing material for Sayursa and Alammc were almost identical, promising a better life for the disabled and government-backed returns. Alammc receivers now allege one of Sayursa's directors, Aidan Garrison, a former bankrupt, had business dealings with David McWilliams.
If you'd known there were connections between these two seemingly separate companies, would you have thought twice about investing with both?
I would have considered it differently, 100%.
When Sayursa didn't deliver on its promised returns, investors demanded answers.
And they were just stringing us along with one story after another about trying to pay us out till it all completely collapsed.
Just weeks after Alammc was forced into receivership, Sayursa had crashed. Investors accused Aidan Garrison and his co-director of squandering their money, owing them $36 million.
Well, I wish he'd rot in hell.
You've ruined what was a good concept to give people in wheelchairs a better life.
In an interim report, liquidators have questioned millions of dollars spent by Sayursa Health's disability businesses. There was a dairy farm in Cambodia, generous personal loans, high-end cars, and $1 million on hospitality and flights. Liquidators believe some of the group's companies were trading while insolvent for up to a year and a half.
For anyone that's having a very stressful experience, no matter what it is, it's very hard not to think about that and to dwell on it. But being able to go out with my horse and ride, it's good therapy.
Annette Williams says she's lost close to $300,000 through both failed companies. She plans to take out a reverse mortgage on her home to survive.
I feel I'm very fortunate in that I personally haven't lost everything. I can still eat, I can still live, my health is good. But there's another side of me that absolutely is enraged by what's happened because they've just taken so much from so many of us and cruelly, you know. It was just going to help me live my later life without worrying about monies. And, you know, I've worked hard and I've worked fairly. And it's a huge adjustment.
Can you tell me a bit about your horse? So we took her to the show last weekend and
I wasn't planning to go back to work at all. But it's a have to. It's not a want to. It's literally I have to. Yeah. That's a bit of a hard pill to swallow at 65.
We've been looking at a few different companies. We've been looking at two on the Gold Coast, Alammc and Sayursa. They took more than $100 million combined from investors and only built a couple of these developments. What does this tell you?
It tells me the market's been basically just left unregulated, unsupervised. It's astounding, to be honest, that this has been allowed to happen. But not surprising, I guess.
Tell me when you're ready. Welcome, smart investors, to sunny Melbourne. We're out here in Thornhill Park.
Joe Gavin works in another sector of the Specialist Disability Accommodation, or SDA, market.
One of the new subdivisions, western suburbs.
He's selling completed houses that are ready for tenants to move in.
We're looking at a high physical support house today, and we're also going to touch on why NDIS properties are the best investments anywhere in the world. All right, safety, security, huge incomes, very good karma.
He is unashamedly upbeat about the money to be made.
You know, any of your dreams, goals, etc., can very often be achieved with an NDIS house. So NDIS investments allow people to typically get what they really, really want, which is looking after their children, getting them through the best schools. It's going to help people pay off their mortgage in record time, that's for sure, with the additional cash flow. It's going to set themselves up for a life and have a fantastic retirement. There's lights all around the house that come on automatically.
When Four Corners got in touch, he was happy to show us how he operates. He gets a cut from the builder for every home he sells to an investor.
So why did you get into SDA?
To make as much money as possible in the shortest possible period of time, as safely as possible.
Are you in it for the people with disability?
Not really. That wasn't my first consideration. You know, I work for the investor, so it's my job to make as much money as possible for the investors.
How much money is there to be made?
Enormous amount of money in SDA housing because, you know, these days a house might cost about $1 million. Your rental income, having two people in that typical sort of a house, is over $200,000. But something like this might be $7,000 to $10,000.
High returns are possible, but there's a catch. The government only pays the rent if eligible people with a disability move in.
See you later, smart investors. Gotcha.
And you reckon you can get that for this property, $200,000 a year?
Already got it. Yeah, so there's already participants that are organised to move in.
His outlook is rosy, given how many empty specialist disability houses we've seen around here. Gaurav Gupta, another disability housing investment advisor, is not so optimistic.
There's one of the largest oversupplies in the country in this particular area, yes.
He says many people with a disability who are eligible don't want to live here.
In these areas, there's lack of amenities, it's not close to shops, it's not close to the allied health services that people with disabilities do need on a day-to-day basis.
He says one of the fundamental flaws with the SDA policy is that the government hasn't told the private market where to build.
So the NDIA, which is the agency responsible for managing the NDIS, have been very opaque with their data until really recently. And one of the challenges is they haven't really told people where to build, where the demand is.
That means a large number of houses have been constructed on the outskirts of capital cities where land is cheap.
There's still that philosophy, that old school group home thinking where build it and people will come. And people with disability have very loudly said, we do not want to live without amenity.
Jeremy Hope is the CEO of the peak body that represents almost half of the SDA market.
Why didn't the government just tell the market where to build?
The intent of SDA was that it was meant to be an open market. There was meant to be some maturity of the investors, the builders, the providers, to have those conversations with participants around where people wanted to live. We can clearly see that that didn't occur.
The unintended consequence of all this is that there are empty disability houses around the nation.
I would argue that there's well in excess of 1,000 empty homes across Australia at the moment.
Doesn't look like anyone's home there. Okay, that one's empty too.
In Melbourne's outer west, we discover some streets have multiple houses that are empty.
So we've knocked on the doors of at least half a dozen homes and it seems they're all empty. And that shows that at least here, the SDA policy is failing. Behind each of these houses is an investor who's potentially overstretched to be able to purchase the home, and they may find themselves in all sorts of financial strife now, so they're not getting a rental income.
And that's precisely the situation Tony Wilson has landed in.
It's been going on for months and months, trying to work out a way forward.
Tony Wilson says a property broker convinced him to buy 2 specialist disability accommodation houses, one of them in Melbourne's outer suburbs. But no participants want to live there. Now he and his wife are struggling to pay the hefty mortgage.
We're selling assets and whatever we can to try and make payments every month. We've both had breakdowns as a result of it. Yep.
Like many investors we've spoken to, Tony extended so much to buy his SDA properties, putting them on the normal rental market with much lower returns is not enough to pay the mortgage. His investment properties have plunged in value and are now worth hundreds of thousands of dollars less because of the SDA glut.
I suspect that we'll be forced to sell our family home. Yep.
And how does that make you feel?
Yeah, horrible. Yeah, we've still got kids at home. You know, it's a nice place to retire. Would have been, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case.
A lot of sharks and unethical people have really entered this space to make a buck because it's an easy sell.
If investors aren't making money from this, who's making money?
The builders and the spruikers. They're the ones that effectively did a hit-and-run job, as far as I'm concerned.
This is one of your answers why there's a lot of vacant houses as well.
Joe Gavin agrees a lot of SDA investors have been burnt by unscrupulous operators, but says his investors have done well.
You like to say that SDA is the safest investment in the world.
Yeah, for sure.
Is that true?
Well, I'd say so. It's backed by property, all right? So even if, you know, there's a miracle pill comes along and everybody's cured and there's no disabled people anymore, you've still got a property investment. We see that an NDIS house...
He says he does business differently because he ensures participants will move into homes. But there are challenges. By the time we film our interview with him, the tenants for the house he showed us have fallen through.
No huge drama, okay, with it. There's another one to look at going through the house about now. Because remember, we're only in areas where there is a demand anyway. We're not in the middle of whoop whoop where we were just waiting for one person to come.
But, I mean, we've been talking about how West Melbourne's not an area of demand.
But West Melbourne's a pretty big place.
Yeah.
He says it's a temporary problem and he'll be able to find tenants through his networks with disability care providers.
Right, so we need more stock. I think it's still the best investment, alrighty, in the world. You know, the people with a disability are not going away. You know, the NDIS numbers are booming. People are still injecting their kids with vaccines and causing autism, etc., which is the fastest growing area of NDIS demand.
So do you believe that the need for SDA housing will expand because of a growth in autism, which is caused by vaccines?
Yeah, I definitely believe that. I'm with Ash.
Australian health bodies say there's no scientific evidence that vaccinations are linked with autism. We checked back in with Joe recently. He still has no tenants for the house he showed us, but he believes he'll have someone within a month.
My name's Bruce Camplin. I've been for the most part of my life living in an institution or in a group home with other disabled people. I thought that what I had for 50 years was the best that I was going to have. I'm now living in Specialist Disability Accommodation and it's changed my life forever. Hey Siri, door on. I didn't know much about SDA, but I've embraced it and it's only been a positive for me. Hey Siri, turn on the lounge room light.
This is how the government's Specialist Disability Accommodation program is intended to work.
So it's made me definitely more independent. It's helped me need less supports because it's all the technology that I'm able to just call on instead of a physical person. They're there obviously if I still need them, but yeah, for little light things that may only take a second to do, I'm able to do that all for myself. In the group home, it was no privacy. It was shared everything from the bathroom to the kitchen to having real no sense of independence. And so I had a vision of what I wanted my house to look like. I've just made it my own. It can make people more independent and social and give them a sense of dignity and everything that goes with having your own home and being independent.
Brucey! Steve, how are you? Fabulous.
Nice day for a swim.
Certainly is.
I have met more people in the 2 years and 2 months that I've been living here than I did in the 34 years at the group home.
It's hard to imagine Bruce would have ever met Kurrawa lifesaver Steve Cornelius during his old life.
And when Brucey was rolling up, it was, oh, Brucey, you ever go on the ocean?
All right, let's do it. That's the answer good.
And he said, yeah, he did. And I said, oh, good. Well, anytime you want to go in, let me know and I'll take him in.
There's a sense of being free. I can taste the salt water in the back of my throat. It's a sense of freedom.
While it's been life-changing for Bruce, the goal of providing specialist disability accommodation to get people out of group homes en masse appears to have failed.
Hey.
Disability advocates say the number of people in group homes has remained roughly the same since SDA was introduced.
Have you decided whether you're going to...
There's no reliable data, but they believe it's around 17,000 people.
Best part of the day in the morning, isn't it?
Yeah.
Brent Woolgar became a disability housing consultant inspired by the promise it held for his son Nate, who has cerebral palsy.
I thought specialist disability accommodation was amazing. I still do, to a great extent. As a parent of a young adult with disability, the constant question of what's going to happen in terms of his security when I'm no longer around, I'm sure every parent is haunted by that thought. And specialist disability accommodation is, you know, a potential huge game changer.
But his optimism has waned as he's seen hundreds of millions of dollars spent on houses he says will never be used as specialist disability accommodation.
I do believe the SDA, or Specialist Disability Accommodation part of the NDIS, does meet the criteria for market failure, which is really sad to say.
Is this what you get when you let the private market do what it wants without any oversight or regulation from the government?
Yes. This is the outcome you get.
I think it would be really good to see the modification fees done.
He's worried investment in the sector will dry up and better located homes won't be built.
So your fear is that the shine has really come off the SDA market?
Definitely. It really has. Can I just have this real sense that we're getting to a point where we have potentially squandered a once in a generation, potentially multiple generation opportunity to provide amazing housing outcomes for people with disability, and that's really, really sad.
I think currently the shine of SDA is coming off a little. I do agree. It's meant that people have paused a little bit. I don't think we've missed the boat. I think we've needed to reset.
There's another part of the SDA process where investors have been burned. SDA providers are crucial to making the whole system work. Like a real estate agent, they find the participants and maintain the homes. They also manage the money, collecting the rent from the government and passing it on to investors. In this, lawyer Darryl Richards and his partner John Johnson saw an opportunity, creating the company NDIS to be an SDA provider.
Would you ever entrust a substantial investment with Mr Richards?
I wouldn't entrust $1 with Mr Richards.
Darryl Richards has a history of not paying his debts. Before he started NDIS, he ran a Brisbane law firm where Irena Gray worked as a solicitor.
So how much are you owed?
About $15,000 all up. So that was all of my super for the entire time that I worked for him and all my holiday pay.
On top of allegations of unpaid pay, Mr Richards and a co-director had already put a law firm into liquidation, owing $888,000 to creditors. None of this stopped the regulator from giving him the go-ahead to become an SDA provider.
What sort of a system is this that people can go bust and then the next day turn around and start up an NDIS business?
That's not great, is it? There's more and more people that it's become obvious that, they were failed in business, they were this, they were that could register an NDIS business. So I'm not sure what process exists, but I assume whatever it is not working.
Hi, my name is Natalie Nolan. SDA is a wonderful initiative and so very vital, but I could never have envisaged the issues that I was faced with the company that I signed up with. I've been met with extreme incompetence. It's absolutely mind-blowing that this has continued for so many years.
Knowing nothing about Darryl Richards' past, Natalie Nolan entrusted the build and management of her SDA home with the company he co-directed.
I was fortunate, my house was filled pretty quickly compared to others, so I thought, that'll be easy.
But it wasn't. She's one of half a dozen investors who've told Four Corners they believe they were shortchanged on their rent.
It varied so wildly every month. It could have been $2,000 or I could have got $15,000, $16,000 a month. The information was always so vague that you could never get a clear idea of what you were actually getting paid for.
Darryl Richards has blamed the rent issues on the agency that operates the NDIS. The NDIA told Four Corners it sometimes delayed or stopped payments to the company to guard against funding misuse.
It seems hard to believe that...
On top of these problems, Natalie Nolan says the maintenance fees NDIS charged seemed excessive.
I started to get concerned once I realised that a lot of the companies they used, whether for maintenance, for mowing, for SDA certification, were companies that Darryl and John owned. I just think they wanted to profit from every aspect of the process.
At the same time NDIS was accused of price gouging, Some subcontractors weren't always paid.
It's frustrating knowing that you've done the work that you won't get paid for, and I substituted work time for family time, you know, so yeah, it's just disappointing in that sense.
Sonny Davis mowed lawns at almost 30 NDISP properties in Townsville. He says he was often chasing NDISP to pay his invoices.
I always got given runaround, you know, sort of responses like, oh, we've had a glitch in our pay system. Yeah, so there's 3 in this area that I used to mow.
He says many of the properties he worked at were vacant and neglected. Concerned, he tracked down some of the investors who owned the homes, who told him they were paying NDISP high fees to maintain them.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like it's still empty. Got the mail sticking out of the box.
Yeah, this is the one that then I started to wonder where all this money that these investors were paying, where that was going, because, you know, like, I wasn't seeing it, so it had to be going somewhere. Doesn't look like it's been mowed in quite some time.
Sonny was still chasing $5,000 from NDISP when it went bust in May, owing creditors more than $3.3 million.
Could be filled with people just sitting there, so.
It was the second time Dale Richards had been at the helm of a failed business, leaving a slew of collateral damage behind him.
Can you tell me what you think of Dale Richards now?
Yes. A user. I'll leave it at that. Because I've got morals.
So, Irene, you obviously don't like Dale Richards. Are you here because you've got an axe to grind?
So it's got nothing to do with an axe to grind. It's just people need to know that he's been here and done this before, and people need to sit up and listen now, and there needs to be accountability for what he's doing, and he can't be allowed to do it again. He's done it enough times. Let's stop this.
Dale Richards told Four Corners it was possible Irene Gray was owed money, but it was not his memory of the situation. He said the companies he and his co-director ran to maintain the homes didn't make profits and were established to adhere with NDIS compliance policies.
We've gathered a lot of evidence throughout the research for this program that there are major problems with the SDA market, with unscrupulous developers as well as providers. Would you agree that that's the case?
I would agree that there are a number of unscrupulous providers in SDA, yes.
Is it a big problem?
I think it's damaging. It's a big problem because it's damaging the reputation of many, and I think there is a large portion, and dare I say near majority, that are doing a really good job.
Investors burnt in the disability accommodation market have turned everywhere for help.
Bill Shorten, when he was in charge.
The opposition.
The NDIA, NDIS Safeguarding.
My local member.
Queensland Small Business, Office of Fair Trading. It's endless.
But they say answers are few and far between.
No one could help me. No one could help the investors. It was probably around that time where I realised how unregulated the industry was.
They've just dropped us like, oh, it's gone.
There's a hodgepodge of agencies regulating specialist disability accommodation. The NDIA, the NDIS Commission, state consumer protection bodies, the ACCC and ASIC.
So have the regulators done enough to protect those mum and dad investors?
No, they haven't. I don't believe they've done much at all.
A key problem is that the NDIA, a body set up to help people with a disability, has been asked to manage a mass housing rollout.
So it boggles the mind that a disability agency was left in charge of what is essentially a housing program.
It does. So I do think there was a potential huge missed opportunity for the community housing sector to get more engaged, and I think we would have had a much more successful outcome.
The NDIA declined an interview but told Four Corners the NDIA is committed to supporting a robust and efficient market for specialist disability accommodation that gives NDIS participants the modern options and choices that they deserve. ASIC has been investigating David McWilliams for more than a year. The federal court granted the financial regulator's bid to freeze his and his wife's assets. Their Gold Coast hinterland mansion, investment properties and cars were sold. But in June, it emerged the couple hadn't declared all of their assets to the court. Court documents state in the first half of this year, they churned through more than $250,000 from undeclared accounts. They spent some of it at Gold Coast gambling venues, on musical tickets, and even paid for a trip to Disneyland in California.
What do you think about that?
Secret account. Honestly, it comes as no surprise. I just think it's disgusting. In reality, it's money that he owes us as investors, and he owes us millions.
So I've been trying to reach David McWilliams for some time to hear what he has to say about all this. Investors obviously have a lot of questions about what's happened to their money, so I've come here to this high-rise apartment block where he lives to see if I can catch him.
I see a man who I think is David McWilliams.
David McWilliams? No.
But then I notice a distinctive tattoo on his arm.
Dave McWilliams, it is you. Do you have anything to say to investors? Mr. McWilliams? Do you have anything to say? Mr. McWilliams? Do you have anything to say? Do you have anything to say to investors? Mr. McWilliams? Do you have anything to say?
He's just soulless, isn't he? I mean, he has no ability to even show his face and face up to what he's done. I just hope that through the justice system, he will face what he's done.
Lawyers for David McWilliams said he did not wish to respond to any questions. ASIC has flagged that it is investigating possible criminal charges against him. It is also investigating Sayorsa's directors. Aidan Garrison told Four Corners, "I accept that there were challenges faced by our special disability accommodation investment strategy and acknowledge their impact on investors. Despite our best efforts, these challenges ultimately affected the project's financial viability, making it difficult to achieve the intended outcomes." For investors, any regulatory intervention has come too late. They wish authorities were paying attention to what was happening before they lost their money.
I think they're weak. I think at the end of the day, it's our money, and I think they should do something about it because they're not protecting the Australian people.
There's no doubt specialist disability accommodation, as it's intended, can be life-changing for people with a disability.
Yeah, I'd like to be here for as long as my circumstances stay the same and I'm not needing care that's beyond what this setup is meant to be. But yeah, as far as forever home, I'm hoping it to be.
But if rogue players aren't weeded out, the future of disability housing is at risk.
I think when you have an industry that has a lot of money and no regulation, it essentially attracts opportunists. And unless the NDI step in and regulate this industry, you won't get rid of them. There's too much money available.